Well, welcome back to another episode of Nostalgia Street, where we share the stories that shape us. Our guest today is one that's been an advocate for us, if we will, Forefront Studios. Love her to death. She brought us some goodies. We'll talk about that in a second. But her name is April. We'll leave it quiet for now. She's the 4th month of the year. Maybe, will this air in April, perhaps?
Maybe.
We could make April air to April. But, okay, so we're going to, as usual, we're going to kick it over to Vince, and he's going to give the
Unhinged
question of the week. Unhinged.
So our lucky, fortunate guest today that we are very fortunate to have is April, as Jeff said. She is a well-known quantity in our community, has connected us to many people who we call friends today. And also, apparently, she used to drive machinery at the age of 10. So you'll find out more of these facts as we go through this episode. But today, April, our question to you is, as an avid television watcher, we would like you to reach back into the pivotal shows of your youth. Pick one live action show and one animated show and swap the cast. What happens?
That is such a good question. My favorite probably was Fantasy Island.
Yes.
So we're swapping that with Super Friends. Oh my goodness.
Please tell us how that goes.
So you have Captain Stubing, right? You're having him as
Fantasy Island.
Oh, no, that's
Mr.
right.
Rourke.
I'm thinking of Love Boat. Sorry, let's go back. So Mr. Rourke being Superman, and then you have Tattoo?
Yeah.
God, now I'm
Little Tattoo.
challenging my memory here. So you have Tattoo being Wonder Woman, Batman.
I don't know
Oh
who
my
people are,
goodness.
but it's funny.
Oh my god. So then you have Superman being Mr. Rourke. That would be cool.
Mr. Rourke in that show, you kind of thought he was a mystic of
He
sorts.
suave.
He was very suave. Do you remember who played him?
Ricardo Montalban. There you go. Yes.
Okay. And who was Tattoo? For $500. Who
Oh my
played
gosh.
Tattoo?
Dang it.
Starts with an H.
Hector? No.
It was his first name started with the H and his last name started with a V. I might be saying this wrong, but Hervé Villechaize.
Yes.
He was a cute little dude who was
Oh my
also, he was in another movie, but I think the only other movie he was in, he was actually in a James Bond movie. I forget
Was
which one. I think he was in Goldfinger.
And
Wait,
he played.
no, sorry.
You guys have lost me.
Girl with a golden gun.
So is that why the new one with Michael Myers has the.
Baby, little B, or mini me.
I mean, are we being politically correct?
Yeah. Little person. Yeah, I said that wrong. It was a girl with a golden gun or guy with a golden. I forget. Golden gun. But Goldfinger was. We're getting way off topic.
Yeah,
here.
you lost me, and we've
Sorry.
lost our audience at this point.
We're talking about 4 decades of James Bond movies,
Yeah,
right?
there's a lot of them. Nostalgia Street invites you on a retro ride that's more than just a trip down memory lane,
Uncover life lessons and personal growth stories that stem from our collective past.
so you can live a richer, more connected life today.
Whether you're a 90s kid, an 80s teen, or simply young at heart, you'll find something to relate to in each episode.
Now, here are your hosts, Vince and Jeff. All right, well, our guest today is April Meyerink, who's the Vice President of Business Development at American Bank and Trust, who is kind enough to sponsor the show with the sweet apparel.
Socks.
Got this, I got socks, we got a hat. Life is good. And we had to, we couldn't show this on camera because we would probably violate some FCC laws, but...
FCC.
FAA, I don't know. But, so we have this picture. We'll show this on our video stream. But April was with us during our initial, what do we call it? Ribbon cutting. And she brought us a bottle of champagne. And we're going to keep that bad boy around. So she's been a big fan of ours. We've been a big fan of hers. So it's awesome that we're finally getting to have you on our show.
You guys have been doing some amazing things.
So we've been able to up the budget of our show. We have an assistant now, so we're going to show people.
Here we go.
Here we go.
Got
Look
a
at
focus
that.
in right there.
Hopefully they can see it, but April is
There she is right there.
infectious laugh as always. All right, thank you, Tony.
Intern Tony. Thank you,
Good job, Tony.
All right, April. So let's go back in our time machine, and at whatever age that you wish to start with, whether it's birth to 7, somewhere in that range, where did life begin for you in South Dakota?
I would say my story is quite a bit different than most. So I was adopted at almost the age of 3. And so I grew up in Midwest, South Dakota, thinking I looked like everybody else. Until I got in front of a mirror and old enough to look and realized, wait a minute, I don't look like
I
everybody
have a really
else.
good tan.
Yes, yes. But that is a testament to the community I grew up in, that they didn't treat me any different. So I really appreciate that
That's
from
awesome.
my family and I grew up in a town of 300. And so we had 20 kids in our class that came from 7 different towns, surrounding towns. So it was very limited on who you could be friends with.
Yeah, yeah. Now, where was the town that you grew up in?
Revillo, South Dakota.
Reeville?
Revillo. And
Revillo.
Revillo.
Okay.
And I heard rumors that it was called Revillo because if you flip it backwards, it was Oliver, and that's who founded the town.
Oh, that's clever. Clever way to get your name in the history books.
It's like Nebraska Escarbon.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So where is Revello at?
So Revillo is about 10 miles west of the Minnesota border, about 17 miles south of Millbank, and about 15-ish miles north of Clear Lake.
Okay.
So kind of in the middle of nowhere.
Kind of.
Yeah. So it's one of those towns, if you blink, you're just really going to miss it.
So what was a perfect day for young April growing up? What did that look like?
A perfect day
Yeah.
is when you get to sleep in, or it's Saturday, you wake up and go watch cartoons, you get the bowl of cereal, and you just pour as much as you can in there and sit right in front of the TV. Don't leave for like 3 hours until
right.
Captain 11 shows.
Ask her the magic question about cereal, Vince.
Oh, yes. Are we a cereal first, then milk, or milk, then cereal?
Cereal first.
Yes, there we
Cereal
go.
first.
And why?
Because you want more cereal than milk.
I knew I liked her. We talked about this earlier. I'm like, yeah, you can't put the milk in first because then
You're limited
cereal-
on how much cereal you can put in.
Yeah. And so did you use the spoon to finish off the milk, or did you?
Oh, you got to slurp it.
Yes.
You gotta slurp it.
There we go. My spirit animal, right here, April. Love it.
Did you grow up with any siblings?
I had 3 older sisters.
Oh, gosh. Whole house full of
Yes.
girls.
Yes. So poor dad, he had 4 girls, all ages, with 1 bathroom that had.
Oh
Yes,
no.
on a farm. So yes,
Oh, no.
it was tough in the mornings.
I bet.
Or the telephone? You always talk about like being on the line.
Oh yeah, yeah.
Fighting for the telephone. I was at the age where I didn't have a lot of people to call yet when
Yeah.
I grew up there. So, but always seeing my sister, and the cord was at least 30 feet long. And,
Yep.
I mean, all just wrecked because it was tied up and cords and knots.
We had those. I mean, the cord, you could never, there was always one part that you could never get to go back together again. You know what I'm talking about?
Yeah. Stretched its maximum capability.
Yeah, never would. So how much older were your sisters?
So I had a sister I still have a sister that's 11 years older than me, 6 years older, 3 years older, and then myself. So I was the baby, of course.
So what were some of the hooligans that you guys would get into?
Oh my gosh. Well, I recall a moment my sister, she's the second oldest, would pin me down and do the spit thing and then suck it back up, right?
Oh,
Have you ever had a
no.
sibling that did that? But one time she didn't catch it soon enough and it fell on my face. So then I grab a steak knife and I'm running around the house chasing her because I'm gonna kill her. Right? I'm not gonna kill her, but
Yeah.
I was gonna get her. So
Okay, Vince made that face about the spit thing. Do you know what she's talking about?
No.
You would hover over your sibling, and you would have enough slobber, and you would just let it string out, and then the last minute you could go back in.
because the victim did not know that you were gonna suck it back.
You never
in.
did that to your brothers?
No, we did.
You weren't living, sir. Who started that, do you think?
Oh, jeez. I think there's nothing to do in the Midwest, so that's, you just came up with different things. And there was another moment, I remember my parents wouldn't buy a lot of sugary stuff, so one time we had to make our own chocolate milk because they would never buy it. So we put chocolate in with the milk, and then shake it in the gallon, and the cap wasn't on, so milk just went everywhere.
Oh.
That was a lot of fun.
So as the youngest, did you get away with a lot?
Oh, yes, they were exhausted by the time I came. Yeah, they
Can
were.
I? Yes, you can do it.
Yeah,
Whatever.
it was pretty much what time you're going to be home. Make sure, you let us know when you get there, and then that was it.
Did you ever do something and then let one of your older sisters take the blame?
Oh.
Because knowing you could get away with it because you were the baby.
No, because they were probably a little bit more of a troublemakers than I was at that time. I was I was pretty much a goody two shoes until a certain age.
A certain age.
Let's-
We need to know. What was that certain age?
Let's dig into that.
Now we're getting somewhere. So what was how big was your class?
About 20 kids, 20, 21, just depending on the year. If we had a new kid come in because of the new teacher or new pastor or whatever, they
Yeah.
would have a child. But 6 girls and the rest were boys.
Whoa.
Yes.
So you had your pick of the litter.
Not really. When you know them from kindergarten, it's really hard to.
Yeah. Yeah, that's true. You know, all their annoying little stories. We had a kid named Glenn. I almost said Glenn Campbell.
Glen
I don't-
Coco?
Yeah. No.
Glenn Campbell, is he the polka guy?
Yeah, no. He's dead, I think, Glenn Campbell. No, there's a guy named Glenn. He was the tallest guy in our class. He had the longest fingers, the longest nose. And every time that was somebody's birthday, and he would eat the cupcake every year from kindergarten till 6th grade, every year. We don't know how he did it, but he always got cupcake up his nose. I'm like, how do you
Special talent.
Yeah, like you're totally into your cupcakes when it goes up your nose. So what did little April want to be when she was growing up?
April, at a young age, wanted to be an archaeologist.
Whoa,
Ooh.
really?
Yeah,
Because-
archaeologist. I liked biology stuff back then. Thought it was always going to be neat to go somewhere warm.
Yeah.
Because we were living in middle of South Dakota, so, I was tired of the winters. I don't know why. I just thought it would be cool to discover stuff.
Archaeology.
So, yeah, I quickly changed my mind on that one, though.
So when you saw Indiana Jones come out, were you like all over that movie?
I was out of that phase by then, by the
Okay.
time the movie came out.
Were you like digging in the backyard with like your little shovel, trying
Yeah,
to
a lot
find
of
it?
exploring, a lot of
brush.
collecting or things that you would find, rocks and
Like-
different stuff. I didn't have a makeup
Willow
brush.
brush, yeah.
no.
Like it's a dinosaur. No, it's a chicken bone.
My dog dug it down there last week. Sorry about that. So, like, the thing I like, as I'm looking at my little cheat sheet here of all of the different musical groups that you were into, we share so many. Who would you say rises above as the group that you listen to the most?
That I will still listen to today.
Yeah.
I just started getting into it. I don't know if it's on the list, but PM Dawn was really, and I've been starting to listen to that a lot. And then, of course, the Super Bowl with Usher and brings
Yeah.
back all of those days too. But
PM Dawn. Like,
Yeah.
we have to pause here because they had one hit.
3.
They
had
did?
3. Yes.
Set Adrift a Memory Bliss on You, right?
Yes.
Like,
I don't know
the-
who
I
he's like,
Die
who-
Without You.
Oh my gosh!
And
yes.
there's another one. I can't remember what the other one off the top of my head, but yeah.
They were very breathy when they sang.
Like-
At least, the ones that I'm curious who that third one is. We should have had the iPad out so we could do that research, but I forgot about that.
Maybe Tony could get it.
Yeah, maybe so. that is a group that never comes up on the '80s playlist that I go through all the '80s playlists, Spotify, Apple Music, whatever.
Oldie but goodie in my
PM
world.
Dawn.
Yes.
And they kind of ripped off. A Spandau Ballet. The Memory Bliss. That
Yep,
was the
yep.
little.
They did a
kinda-
lot of remixes before remixes were cool.
Yeah. Wow, that's kind of fun to go through that little
Yeah,
trip
little
down
oldie but
memory
goodie.
lane there.
Let's play a fun game then, because you're both the '80s folks here for the music. I always like to play the Survivor game. So pick the group in the '80s or wherever that immediately gets kicked off the island. Pick the groups that gets the first immunity idol, and then which is the surprise group that may make it all the way to the end that people may not, that you or someone else may not think of.
From the 80s?
Yeah.
That's a tough question.
Mm-hmm.
That's a very good question. I think who survives is probably Aerosmith, because they're still.
Wow. Let's just assume we're like this is being played in the '80s right now, and we're not. Don't use. Jeff,
What?
you played too. You played too for fun.
Well, I think Aerosmith, they're like cockroaches. They'll never die.
Oh no! Wait, let's do Kiss. Kiss is
They
gonna
get
stick
kicked off,
around.
or they stick around.
They
All right.
stick around.
They stick around.
They're never going away, right? they're around forever.
I think who is kicked off is Motley Crue because they're just so obnoxious. Them or Milli Vanilli, because what they say you don't really know what they're saying because they're
The
lip
lip
syncing.
syncing,
Yeah,
the lip syncing fiasco, or
yeah.
that was
Probably
they're
them.
kicked
And
off.
who else did you have on the island?
Oh, it was who gets the first immunity idol, and then who makes it all the way to the end.
I think Adam Ant gets the first immunity idol. That's like
George Michael. He gets the first immunity.
Yeah. It's the good-looking party guy.
Because he kicked the other Wham guy out.
Yeah.
Well, because they started out as Wham, right? And then he went solo, and then he had a little bit of a political nightmare, and then he came back strong. So
Yeah, he did.
Yeah.
That's my question.
That's a good
That's a
question.
very good question.
I like that. So who's along those lines? Because to me, I think I've said this on the show before, George Michael's is an amazing songwriter. If you look at the lyrics of, and the album that I liked the most wasn't in the 80s, but it was, I think, in the 90s. It was Listen Without Prejudice, Volume 1. Ooh. That was his first solo album. And I looked at those lyrics as a college student at that time. I'm like, whoa, these are really good lyrics. So was there anybody that wrote really compelling lyrics? Or did you care about lyrics?
I cared about lyrics, but I think it was more melody for me.
Okay.
Lyrics to me only mattered when it was a breakup or something, because then, it really hit home.
Yeah. Good point.
Yeah.
Good
yeah.
point.
Silly question here from the youth. Back then, how did we get the lyrics? Were they printed somewhere, or did you have to just listen and write it down? Like, you can't go on the internet.
So in my world, there were three different options. It was either the artist was fantastic and printed the lyrics in their tape cover or their information, or you had a friend that was really smart and could hear the lyrics, and that's when we would always have the wrong lyrics too, though, right?
Yeah.
That's what I want to ask. What are some famous
The
fluff?
Cure, right?
Yep.
Twisted in this, let me go on, like a blister in the sun. We would say
Violent
Twister.
Femmes.
Yes.
Those are all good. Yeah, and then sometimes you read those lyrics and you're like, oh, I hope mom and dad don't see this.
Well, there was one, as a childhood, I used to always think they said secret Asian man. And it was secret agent man.
Yep.
So.
Secret Asian man, yep.
And mine
Why is
that
he
I
a
said
secret? Why is he a
know.
secret?
Well, my husband used to think Rosanna was Hosanna. So.
We can sing this in church.
Yes.
And mine was the song Lean on Me. I literally thought they were singing Pee on Me.
Oh my gosh.
True story.
She had 11 Labs, that version.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
But my dad did not like. We'd go to Kmart and I'd buy. We'd buy the little
The blue light
45s. Yeah, whatever.
Oh, that's
whatever it was.
flashback.
But I get these little 45s, and it was my dad's like, "What do you got there?" And I'm like, "It's the Pina Colada song," and he's like, "Oh, you can't buy that." I'm like, "Why not? You don't even listen to Rupert Holmes." He goes, "I know the lyrics." I'm like, "Well, what's wrong?" He goes, "Because that song's got to do with fornication." And I'm like, I'm a kid. I'm like, "What's that mean, Dad?" "I'll tell you later."
You just opened up a whole new can of worms by saying that.
Like, oh, you did that now, Dad. Well, bro.
It wasn't the drinking alcohol part that bothered him. It was
Yeah, exactly. That's the thing. I thought, oh, it's about them drinking booze. He didn't like that. Oh, no, it was getting caught in the rain. Yes.
Mm.
We'll be right back. Oh, well. So if you were to go back in time and go, gosh, now that I've heard them, who would I go back to and listen to a little bit more, pay more attention to?
Queen.
Really?
1,000%. There was, I remember working at Movies to Go, which was a, video rental place.
Yeah.
And you could, rent the video recorder, VCR and stuff like that. So I remember there was a gentleman there that said, "God, how come you don't like Queen?" I said, "Because it's an old person's music band, right? I mean, boo." Without really even giving it a shot.
Yeah.
Now listening to the music, holy crap, that's good stuff.
They were good. So you worked at a video store.
Yes.
That's another piece of
Ooh.
nostalgia we haven't unpacked.
We haven't, and Vince doesn't even probably know what that is.
I've been around for Blockbuster.
I mean, that is a golden era in time. It totally is. I remember pulling up and you prayed to God that new copy of Top Gun or whatever it was,
There's still
that they
one
had
left.
enough of them.
Yes.
And then they wouldn't have it, and then you'd have to get the second or the third best thing. And
That's why you have to get to know the employees that work there so they can hold them for you. And so that was always a perk, right?
Yep.
Is you get to either rent movies for free or you get to kind of help your friends get them. So that was fun.
and did you have to rewind a
We would
lot?
charge people for not rewinding.
There we go.
You would charge them like $2.
If you're not kind, we're going to
Please
charge
be kind, rewind.
That's right.
Yes.
you. Have you heard that phrase before?
I think from Stranger Things. Were there ever any instances of movies being put back in the wrong section? Because I remember one instance of the closed off section of the rental store, and this is now in the kids. What is this?
That would happen a lot where the wrong movie got put in the wrong case. Because,
Then it's a surprise when you get home.
Yes, and then a lot of upset people. But even that, sometimes the customers would put the wrong movie in the wrong case by accident.
Mm-hmm. Sure. But what surprises me now with 4K TVs and the ability to go even higher, you go back and you look at even a DVD, let alone a VHS tape, and the resolution that we were content to watch things in. Beggars can't be choosers, so you had to watch whatever you could, but it was just like the quality was just so poopy compared to going to a theater. But it's what we did.
I've seen it live is so much better, right, because of the sound system. But like you said, beggars can't be choosers. When you're that age, you're just happy that you get to see it. I mean, how many times did you get a bootleg copy where you have the little lines going through it too? Just you still watch it.
Yeah, you had to. So what was the go-to tape that you played the most?
Mixtapes, of course.
Well, I mean, so VHS.
Oh,
Was there a movie that just wore out?
I hate to say this. This is a little bit of a Wayne's World for some reason.
All right. That was a good one.
Never seen it.
I was not a fan of actually owning tapes, so I didn't have a lot of them. But for some reason, I really liked that movie, and that's the one
Wayne's
I bought.
World.
Yeah.
Party time, excellent. You haven't?
No.
Oh my gosh.
I only know Wayne's World because it made Bohemian Rhapsody research.
Yeah. And that's where the Queen thing started, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Queen was in Wayne's World.
Yes.
That was good stuff.
And I resonated a little bit because at that time I was in college, and so everybody would call me the gal that was in that movie because she's, of course, Asian, and we all look alike.
Oh, she
and
was
so-
hot. Tia Carrera.
Yes, and so they would call me
I know this-
her name, and I loved it because I thought she was gorgeous, but
Yeah.
we all looked alike, and so of course they would... It's either that or Chrissy Yamaguchi, so...
So did you at one point move when you were young then, or did you grow up through high school in Riv Oliver
Revillo.
backwards?
Revillo. Good old Revillo.
Revlon.
I lived in Revillo, around Revillo, on a small farm about till the end of my 8th grade year. And during that time, that was when the interest rates were just insane. I think they were in the 20s, whatnot.
Typical
and so,
banker talking about interest rates.
well, it's so my this is pretty sad though. My father actually, his house that he was born in, the land that his father had I don't want to say gifted, but inherited.
Yeah.
He basically lost all of that due to that. So we had to restart all over again, and we moved to Brookings. So
Jeez.
so that's kind of the story there. I still have family that
Wow.
lives there, but yeah.
So you ended up as a Brookings Bobcat.
Bobcat, very good. Yes. So moved there, graduated high school in Brookings, went to SDSU for a couple years after that. Didn't do very well.
Did you study carbonation?
I studied liquid dispensing.
Oh, that's
I
another
was,
way of
I was
It's another way
liquid
of saying it.
dispensing engineer.
And you were very good at it, I guess.
Was, yes. If socializing was a major, I would have had a doctorate.
So is this your bartending days now we're talking?
Nope, not quite
Okay,
yet.
not
But
there.
I was
This is the precursor.
the precursor
You were on the
to
other
that.
side of the bar.
Yes.
Because
yes.
we had Greg Cook from 605 Run and Go. Same story. SDSU majored in carbonation.
Yeah.
Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, yes. Had a lot of fun. I will attribute that those times helped me in my career later on. So
Yeah. You learned the lessons.
yeah.
Well, how old were you when you had your first drink?
Oh geez. So growing up in Revillo, growing up in any small town in South Dakota, I remember getting my physical after going into my 7th grade year. And of course there are people or farmers there that graduate and stay in that area. Well, they bought a keg and it was on Main Street and anybody and everybody was allowed to participate. And I remember having my first beer and going into my 7th grade year on Main Street in Revillo.
It's like 11.
Yeah. I was going to say, I had my first physical when I was 10 and my blood alcohol content was a 0.17.
I didn't like it. I didn't like it. It was
Driving
all-
tractors and drinking beer before most of the kids here even get a car.
Do you remember the first time you smelled beer?
Yes, it was. Revello had just turned 100, so it was the big celebration. So I remember my dad holding a beer on Main Street, and I'm like, "Hey, can I have some of that?" Thinking it was a soda.
Yeah.
He's like, "Sure," and he gives me a swig, and I spit it out. It was awful. It was the worst.
I remember the smell, but I can't now. Being older, it's hard to explain to people the smell.
I think they have changed the formula in so much that it actually tastes good now versus back then it
Back
was.
then.
So I remember being really young and we'd be walking on the road and there'd be somebody had dumped a Miller High Life 6-pack and there were still 2 left of the 6-pack and you don't know how long it's been sitting there.
Yeah.
But as a kid, you're going, oh, beer. So you open it up and it just tastes like crap.
Yeah. Plus, it's probably hot.
Oh,
or something like
skunky
that.
beer, right?
Yeah, that's the worst. So when you got into the Brookings days, then that was high school time,
Brookings is high school, yes.
and so did you know what you wanted to do at that time?
So I was pretty ambitious in high school. Try to be a part of everything and anything I could because Revello, you were very limited on different activities and
Yeah.
what was available for extracurricular activities. And so Brookings has, what? Photography? What? Gymnastics? What? I mean, so it was like a kid in a candy store. So, your freshman year, you joined everything. I was in debate, taking pictures and doing art and basketball and cheerleading and track and all this stuff. And then sophomore year, kind of you dial that back a little bit. So, but basketball, cheerleading, photography was those are my 3 passions in high school.
So where did the social butterfly piece of you emerge?
I think it's because I was the youngest growing up on a farm, and my dad farmed and was gone, and my mom was a teacher in another town. And so, growing up very isolated by myself, when you get a chance to be with people, it's you just chatty Cathy all of a sudden.
Yeah.
Was there an activity of all the ones you listed there that you may have really enjoyed it, but you just weren't quite talented for it?
Ooh, a lot of things. Track was a major one. Just because I was in basketball, they would force you to be in track, and I just always thought you never see anybody smiling when they're running. Why would anybody participate in that? Right?
True. That's a good point.
I still think running is a big scam.
Because
I used to think that until I started running. I don't know if it was a midlife crisis thing, but they always talk about that runner's high.
yeah.
It's painful to get to that point, but once you hit it, it was always a 2-mile marker for me. But once you hit that 2 miles, it was like you're just breathing all this amazing air and life is amazing
Yeah.
and you just love life.
Well, I'm not talking about the runners. I'm talking about the industry of running.
Oh,
hey,
yeah.
pay us money and you can run, which you can do for free. And
But
we'll
you gotta have the right shoes, though.
you have the right shoes, and we'll put you all in this really tight route. And pay us money, and you pay us more money if you get a different jersey.
Yes. Well, and thousands and thousands, tens of thousands of people will pay to run that route
Yes.
multiple times a year.
So speaking of shoes, you're repping the old Adidas shirt today.
Yes, and it's baseball. So it
Oh,
had
really?
nothing to do with baseball, but I remember loving any type of sports, label type of stuff. And so in high school, this is actually from my sophomore year in high school. So I thought it was appropriate
And
to
it
wear today.
fits.
Were there
Fits
any
perfectly.
other trends that were popular in Brookings High School in those days? You talked about like rolled up jeans in your day.
Jabots, remember those?
Yeah. See, we've heard that before.
Jabots. Okay, so that, and then you'd always wear the loafer jellies with the little pegs on the bottom.
Or jelly pigs.
They were kind of loafer-ish, moccasin-ish. Yeah.
Yep.
Penny loafers were popular. I'd always wear men's jeans, men's clothes, because that was kind of the thing, is to
Really?
be very, yeah.
I did too.
Except you roll them real tight.
Yeah, I mean, polos, anything like that.
Polo was
Yeah,
big.
yeah. That was
Nike.
Calvin Klein, that was
Yep.
popular.
That was big.
Jabots, do they even make them anymore?
I don't
Z
know.
Cavarici, remember those?
Yep. We've had people talk about that before. Who was that?
Christina.
Christine Coda?
Yeah, you guys had a whole jean thing. You
Yeah.
talked about booty jeans.
Yeah. Yeah, I always said when I was in high school, or junior high school, really, Levi's 501 jeans shaped the booty the best. Calvin, like the designer jeans, the girls would wear those. I'm like, nope, just go cheap. Go with the Levi's 501s. They look the best.
You didn't wear
And the
boot-
guys' booties looked okay.
I always wear men's Levi's. Yeah, I always wear boys' jeans. I don't know why. They just felt more comfortable.
Did you not have that jean epiphany?
I mean, we had khakis and polos
Oh,
at
that's
a
right,
private
Catholic-
school. So it
Catholic
was just,
school.
I mean, it was the specific type of khaki or the specific type of polo, but it wasn't anything
Well,
different.
they don't want to show booty because that would cause you to sin.
Couldn't have long hair either, and, you know, all sorts of other things.
Where'd you go to school?
Oh, Gorman.
Oh, yeah.
Gorman.
Oh, Gorman.
So when was your first boyfriend?
First boyfriend was sophomore in high school. We dated for like 2 weeks. His parents and my parents were really good friends. They grew up together, and so we were not allowed to date after that.
Oh.
Which was fine. I think it was a couple weeks. But then my most serious boyfriend was, I think I was a junior, and he was a freshman.
Oh.
Cradle robber.
I know.
Wow.
Yeah.
And so did you listen to the breakup songs then when you guys would bust up?
All of them, right?
All of 'em.
Yeah.
What was the worst that would make you just cry the most?
Night Ranger, Goodbye. Remember that
Oh, yeah.
song?
Yeah.
That one was a tearjerker.
That's a
Hit
sad one.
repeat, rewind, play, rewind,
I
play.
just want to keep crying.
Yes, I mean you listen to it at least 10 times in a row. I mean,
Did you have a breakup song?
No.
No?
I didn't really date until I was probably more in college.
But you still had to have a breakup song there, right?
I'm trying to think. I was more like into like a emo grungy, like alternative music. So I guess all that is
Nothing
very
to make you
sad.
cry.
yes.
all of it's
So,
kind of
yeah.
sad. It's all kind of sad.
I dated this gal that was she was a year or two younger than me, and the one movie we saw when we were dating was Top Gun, and then that summer it was Take My Breath Away by Berlin. And if I heard that song a million times that summer, I would not be lying, and it would just be like, God bless America! I'm trying to get over this woman, and they just kept playing that song over and over on the radio.
It's like, quit doing this to
Take
me.
my breath away.
So growing up partially in Brookings, was there any particular reason why you wanted to stay and go to SDSU, or were you looking at other places, or?
I was looking at other places, not being quite the ambitious or not, taking it very serious. I ended up only getting a scholarship from one place, and so that's where I ended up going was to SDSU. So I ended up going there, and I mean, I had looked at different places. I think I looked at Iowa. I think I had looked at Augsburg College in Minneapolis, which was a very small private Lutheran, whatever.
Yeah.
But SDSU was,
It's right there.
yeah, and then you get a scholarship, and it's like, well, you kind of got to do it now.
Why not? Yeah, I went to school in my hometown too. So we've talked about this, and I think we've talked about this with guests as well, is it feels like there's this, I think the parents probably try to get you to think about this, but when you get to that back end of college, you kind of underestimate what adulthood really looks like. What did that look like for you?
That's a good question because I don't think I ever had adulthood in my college
Yeah.
experience. I think the only thing I was probably adulting on was, good Lord, I'm trying to even think because I did all the things wrong, right?
Yeah.
Parking in the wrong spot, getting your car towed how many times, writing bad checks. I mean, because you went to the bar or you went somewhere and you thought, okay, I only have $30 in my account. Well, I have 2 weeks if I write a check before
Yes.
it bounces,
Yes.
right? I mean, those kind of things.
Yep.
Not going to class,
Guilty.
all the things. And so I didn't last very long at school. But hindsight on it now, where if I could have talked to myself back then, I would have said, just stick it out. I think I had a 2.17 my first semester. And
Yep.
so I thought I was just failing miserably. But C's get degrees. So I would have talked to myself saying, just stick it out. You can
Keep
do
going.
it.
Keep going.
Yeah.
My debate partner, his first year as a freshman at the University of Missouri, his grade point average was a 0.4.
He's on
How's that even
probation.
possible?
Well, that's what I asked him. I'm like, did you just walk in the front door and turn back around? Like, how can you get that low? But he joined a fraternity and was just totally living in the Greek life.
Yes.
And it decimated him. And this guy was my debate partner. He was a smart dude, but boy, he got around the booze, and then watch out, it went downhill fast.
I'd like to say that's a testament of your intelligence is, if you're really super smart, you have the sensory thing. And so you get into the social life and that's your passion for a while,
Yeah.
especially with me growing up, not really having a lot of that social aspect. And so
Yeah.
when you get into college, you're just like, what?
Yeah.
Your freedom. There's thousands of people, kids your age around you.
Yeah.
I mean, there's no parent telling you can't do something. So it's
It's like Las Vegas.
Well, how did that work? Considering you went to school at home technically, so were your parents dropping in at all or no?
Well, let's remind you of my parents kind of being on absent for a little bit because my mom was very focused on her teaching, and she was a very good teacher. So at that time, she was teaching, it's called Select High, which was an alternative high school for dropouts and Brookings. And so she did tremendous work there, but she spent a good 75% of her time with those students.
Yeah.
My dad had to go back to trucking, and so he was gone 9 months
On
out
the
of the
road.
year.
Yeah.
So that leaves April to do whatever she wants to do.
So you got lucky compared to other hometown university kids who've got parents right there.
Yeah, knocking on the door every hour of the day.
Yes. Yes.
Because I lived at home when I was in college, so that's probably what kept me out of trouble. I still got drunk, but they didn't know that.
I think they were just
Until
happy.
now.
I think that my parents were just happy that they didn't get the phone calls they did in high school.
I remember joining a fraternity in college and calling my mom asking for dues, and she's like, "Well, what do you need money for?" I said, "Well, I joined a club." And she's like, "Well, what do you do?
club.
What do you do in this club?" I was like, "Well, we do service projects, we have meetings, we get badges." And she was like, "Okay, so you joined college scouts?" I was like, "Yes, ma'am. I joined Man Scouts."
Man Scouts. God.
That's awesome. That's a good description, though.
Just keep it broad.
Man Scouts. God bless. You killed me.
We'll be right back.
So what were some of those steps then that led you to where you're at today?
So I actually was self-reflecting going, okay, I've been in school for 2 years. I'm not really getting where I want to be. I thought I wanted to go into pre-architect, but I just found out that was all math and little art. And so then I switched it to graphic design. And back then, I'm aging myself, but everything was done by hand and not
Yeah.
on computers. So projects took out like tens of hours, and the money that you had to fork in for all the labs and the tools and the equipment and stuff was just...
Yeah.
And then by the time you graduate with a graphic design degree, you're making less than a teacher. And so it was just not. So I self-reflected, told my parents I'm going to drop out and find something else to do until I could, be serious about my academics. And then 30 years later, I'm returning.
So how did you get into banking?
That's a very good question. So as you can tell, I'm a very social person. So throughout my career, I've always had the knack for talking to people and getting to know them, and that's what I love. So I actually had a role at a security company where they did access control, bank vaults, camera, CCTV, stuff like that. Did that for about 7 years. Was going to go into a sales position there, but due to some disagreements on certain things, they ended up giving it to somebody else, and I ended up leaving. So I go into director of sales positions. One at a hotel. Great opportunity, but we'll never do that again. I did that for a short stint, like a year and a half. And then I did something part-time working for a billboard company, Book Your Billboard. And they actually were really great. They were just launching a new program. And so I did that for about 6 months. But then a friend of mine who had the role previous to me taking it, she actually got an offer from another company. So she contacted me. She goes, "Hey, I think you'd be perfect for this. I threw your name in the hat. They're going to be reaching out to you." Sure enough, they reached out. I met them a couple times, drove out to Rapid City a few times. Zero banking experience, but with my connections in the community, with the chamber, with different nonprofits, it was a good plug and play for them, especially since they didn't have any presence here on the east side of South Dakota. So I got hired and found what I really love to do. So it's been awesome.
There you go.
Yeah.
So has there been, trying to think of the right way to say this, or if you could even answer this question. What's been the most, and you don't have to say the person, you could talk about the personality with that, but what's been the most memorable or notorious conversation you've had with the many people that you've talked with? Does anybody stand out where you're like, you ran home and said, "Honey, I think I've talked to the strangest dude ever"?
So good or bad or just strange?
Yeah, either one.
I hate to be that person that says not every conversation is bad because you learn something from it type of thing, right? I would say there hasn't been one specific person or business or anything that's really maybe stuck back and go, oh my gosh, I'm never going to talk to, it's, you kind of know, especially with my background and being in the restaurant service industry, you get to know people pretty well. So you keep it short and simple if it's not going to pan out. So yeah.
You keep your foot in the doorway so you can duck out if it's getting kind of weird.
Yeah, a little bit.
So we skipped over those bartending days. I do want to talk about that because I think that's interesting. I think a bartender is very, very underrated. My experience with most bartenders is they're very intelligent. They can be very crafty if they want to be, but they have to be very good. They have to have good people skills if they are a good bartender.
I think bartending is really a great training ground for sales. You have these very surface conversations, right?
Yeah.
And you really get to read people, see their attitude or behavior and whatnot. So my bartending day started in Brookings. I started bartending at Ray's Corner there for a couple of years. And then when I moved from Brookings to Sioux Falls, I actually started bartending at Skelly's Pub. And for those older people out there listening, it was just this really skinny bar.
Yeah.
Had a piano where this guy would play. That happened to be the bar where a lot of bankers, a lot of judges, doctors, executives would go, and I didn't even realize that when I started. But back then, female bartenders were not a thing. So I was one out of there were 2 total female bartenders back in that day, and I was one of them.
Wow.
Yeah. Now it's, they're a dime a dozen, so.
So what's a tip that you would give to other bartenders? Some little secret that you learned that helped you make a lot of money as a bartender? Was it about the conversation or was it about the amount of booze?
Giving shit back.
Giving shit back.
Yeah,
I like
being
that.
able to have that dialogue back and forth because they're there for entertainment. I mean, I'm not sitting there doing all the bottle turning and stuff like that, flipping, but you have that conversation. They want that dialogue back and forth, and they want to be razzed a little bit because that's, they probably are there for a reason.
Yeah.
So
I like that. Giving shit back.
Did you ever bartend?
You've
managed bartenders.
I managed bartenders. I would fill in on breaks, but I did not know recipes, and I sucked, quite honestly. I mean, I could do, let's see, what was it? The Long Island iced tea. I could take all 4 bottles and flip them upside down and pour and give it a dash of Coke at the end. I could fake it, but I wasn't as good as, well, so to speak to your point that we had one gentleman, I don't want to say his name out loud in case he's out there. His name was Jason. His last name started with a W, so we call him Dub. Good-looking guy, kept in good shape, blonde hair, but his style of bartending, not only was he a great bartender with his skills, but his mannerisms with people, I would sit there and just watch him go from somebody from this end of the spectrum to this one, and he would always find common ground, but, kind of give him shit back, like you say. And it was amazing. And one day I was talking with him, and then that's when I learned that this was not even his real profession. His day job is he owned a landscaping company and was very successful at it.
Just doing it for fun?
And so I said, so why are you here? And he said, honestly, he goes, this was at Granite City. He goes, honestly, the individuals that come into Granite City are my customer. He said, the people that come into the bar, that income level matches who I pursue. So he said, this is a great place to talk and organically mention about landscaping. And he goes, I'm not breaking any rules by doing this, am I? I'm like, I don't think so, because I've worked with you for like a year and a half, and I didn't know any of this.
And he's making money on the side as a bonus. So
he and the other bartender was Jeremy. We ran 2 on Fridays and Saturdays. I mean, they'd be cleaning, and we'd usually take their tip jar and help count out for them. And I was nosy. I wanted to see what they were making, but that's what they wanted us to do that anyway, because it helped them out while they were cleaning up. And I mean, the amount of money that they would make, hundreds of dollars on a Friday or Saturday night, they were so good.
Oh, geez.
Just good salespeople.
Referring back to when I started at Skelly's, it was a skinny bar. And I remember working on a Tuesday night, and there were 2 pilots that were doing a layover, and they were staying at the Holiday Inn. And so they were questioning me, saying, so this is an Irish bar. And I said, well, yes. Why do you question that? Well, I didn't even realize, but, you know, as you know, I'm Asian. I'm South Korean. Well, we had a bar back that was Korean as well. And then we had a kitchen sous chef that was Vietnamese. And so all three of us were working that same night. And so that's probably why they were questioning, going, so I would joke saying, well, next door is a Chinese restaurant. And so we just kind of work two shifts.
I mean, we're all Irish on St. Patrick's Day.
Oh, yes.
You know,
yes.
granda and grandma.
Yes.
What was your largest tip that you made as a bartender?
That would be, it varies. It just depends on how long of a shift you work, etc.
But like, did you have a regular where they just tipped really well all the time?
Oh, yeah. Yep.
They were the best, right?
Well, even, yeah, back then, you know, someone gives you a $100 tip, especially that long ago, it was pretty awesome.
Yeah.
There were nights, though, that I would be bartending at Skelly's. There are times I even bartended at Jams or Acme or even Ray's Corner where you're walking away with $500-600.
Yeah.
And so back then, that's a lot of money.
Oof, that was. Even today.
So what I'm hearing is in this market now where we're lacking marketing professionals and salespeople, we all should just hire bartenders or get side jobs at the bar.
Yeah.
And just talk about our businesses.
Yeah. I think hiring a bartender, you can't go wrong.
There is you know, I didn't think didn't take a whole lot of skill to be able to talk to people, but my husband pointed out that it does, because
Yeah.
you have to be able to switch, you know, your topic of conversation and whatnot. But honestly, people are creatures of habit. So if you've seen them 5 times, you know exactly what they're going to drink. So having their cocktail or their beer in front of them when they come in, they think it's the best thing. But
Yep.
you're like, well, you never have drank anything different. Right? And then
Yeah.
just being able to have those conversations and roping the whole bar in with the activity or the dialogue is always key too. So, yeah.
That's cool. So where does April see herself in the next 5 or 10 years?
Still at American Bank and Trust, doing development, but I really want to get more involved on the philanthropy side. That's always been a goal of mine, is
Yeah.
to win the lottery or, you know, fall into some sort of money or partner with somebody who wants to just donate money and then be the person that, you know, gives the money away.
Yeah.
I would love to do that.
It'd be Santa Claus.
Yeah.
I mean, this community is really, really big on philanthropy. There's a lot of money that's donated to various causes in our community. It's pretty staggering. I think we have the second best United Way fund.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
I read that somewhere.
Like per capita of people versus people that we have living here and per capita like donations, like it's pretty high up there. Pound for pound with big cities.
Oh,
Yeah.
absolutely.
Yep.
And, you know, Sioux Falls wouldn't be Sioux Falls if it wasn't for these amazing or, you know, the donators and donations and stuff. But we have, 350 nonprofits just in the Sioux
Is that right?
Empire?
Wow. I didn't know that.
I think there's 500 statewide or 600 statewide and 300 and something.
Wow.
We're reclassifying as a nonprofit.
I
Yeah.
guess so.
You can make donations at.
Sausage Street.
So are there any nostalgic moments since we sent you our little questionnaire? Anything that we didn't get a chance to talk about, but you're like, wow, now that I'm here, there's that fun memory that I ponder about once in a while?
Knowing that the statute of limitations is now passed.
Yeah, you can't get arrested.
Oh, God, no. I was just, you know, honestly, when you guys approached me with this, I thought, oh my gosh, this brings back so many good memories. Like, I had some really good friends. We had some
Yeah.
really good times. I mean, you know, it's blast from the past type of stuff happening. But yeah, I look fondly upon those memories. And I just hope everybody can reflect on having a really good childhood and those memories as well, because that's kind of what molds us to who we
Yeah.
are today. So.
True.
Wow, that was a great statement about the show right there. Just nostalgia, good memories. So April, one thing that we like to do as we turn to wrap up the show is we always try to connect that thread from our past, our upbringing, and then see how that carries us forward in the future. So is there a specific story, a moment, a quote, something that you can paint a picture for our audience that has given you something that you still use today in your work, either your work professionally or personally?
That's a really good question. I would say there's a couple, but the one that always sticks out to me and that I like to use a lot is there's always 3 sides to every story. My dad used to always say, you know, put yourself in their shoes. And so there's, you know, their side, your side, and then the truth. And so to always, I mean, no matter how adamant you are that you're right, you're probably not.
Yeah.
And so there's always three sides to every situation. And so I always use that in any type of conversation or a situation that I have, and it's done very well for me. But then also to follow through, and because that was something I never did before, was I procrastinated all the time.
Yeah.
So following through is just a huge thing for me now.
It's cool. I like that.
That's awesome.
Thank you.
Well, thanks for following through and having a conversation with us today.
Thanks for not three sides to every story.
And always being a friend of the studio.
Oh, you guys are amazing.
Oh, you are. We appreciate you.
Well, friends, you can find out more about April and American Bank and Trust via the show notes below. And as always, stay engaged, and we'll see you next time on Nostalgia Street. Make sure to subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast platform. If you're on iTunes, please take a moment and leave us a rating and review.
Head on over to our YouTube channel and hit that subscribe button. You'll get access to engaging visuals that complement our podcast content.
Thanks again for tuning in, and we look forward to having you with us on our next episode. So until next time, listeners, stay curious, stay engaged,
And never stop walking down Nostalgia Street.